Well, I'm here. I made it. It was a long trip. It was tough, and that damn Jdemo just gave me so many problems. I'm kind of screwed, actually. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do and how I'm going to get home. It's going to probably take me a couple days, because I'm probably going to charge on level 2 to get home. Otherwise, the Jdemo is only working like 3 minutes at a time. So I don't know what's going on. I have enough of a charge right now to find some place to go after the party. No, the party, by the way, of course, it's winding down out here. Like this, there's a truck just parked here. But out here, this was all Teslas. It was packed with people. As soon as I pulled in, I just walked out, started talking, and I thought this was it. So then I met up with one of my buddies through the National Drive Electric groups and stuff. Hi, Anthony, by the way. So he took me inside and he showed me the rest of the party inside, and it is nuts in there. They have a bar, they've got all kinds of food. They had Buffalo Wild Wings. It's cool, it's packed, and everybody's kind of dressed nicer than me. I'm a sweaty hobo because I drove here. What took me 8-9 hours or something? I don't know. I have to look at the clock. And I'm just sweaty and gross. I need a shower. I had the AC off pretty much the whole time just so I could get here. So they're all kind of dressed up and kind of nice. It's a nice event. Of course, Rich is inside. I walked over as soon as I got in and I saw him. I went over to say hi, but he is just bombarded with people. There are people all over him every second, and I know he loves it. That's just who he is. He loves the attention. He did make it over finally. He said hi to me when he had a chance. But yeah, it's an awesome event. I'm gonna go back in there and do some more mingling and get another beer. I just had to come out here and check the camper because I actually left the door unlocked. So yeah, don't want that. I don't really want to film in there. It's kind of tacky. Plus, I don't really like filming around people. I don't know. I don't want to like, oh, hold on, stop talking. Let's have this conversation on camera. It just makes it kind of weird. That's just me though. I know other people can do it. So I won't bring the camera out inside. If anybody comes out here and wants to be on camera, maybe, but probably not. But I left my gimbal in the car because here I just said I'm not going to take any more videos inside, but there's Lee in the original Tesla trailer that has no batteries. But there it is. It's really cool. It's really shiny, really nice, and a beautiful sunset. Just a little unsuspecting, normal mall. Little play center there for kids. Oh! Whoa.
This is the guy!
Yeah, I'll be going there again.
So that's the show. They're starting to close down. They're going to have some more functions for, I guess, the sponsors and some of the other important people. But yeah, there's the venue. Lots of cool stuff. I guess the R8 right here is Rich's new car. He just picked that up. Crazy. But 4 a.m. I just arrived to the latest charging station and it's working, thank God. I barely made it here. It was the closest I think I've really ever been, except for when I ran out on the way home from seeing Rich actually, when I ran out of power like a mile down the road from our house. So I barely made it here. I'm taking up multiple spots in front of a Whole Foods. There's a Trader Joe's behind me over that way. I'm taking up 5 spots, but I'll have to look up and see what time they open up here. Oh my God, there's somebody in the store already. Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna be here for probably many hours to get a full charge. So after the show, I started looking at where I was gonna go tonight. I didn't plan this part of it out at all. Once I found out that my Jdemo worked at a station in Ithaca, because it's been kind of on the fritz, I wasn't sure if it was working or not. So once I found out it was working, I'm like, hell yeah, I'll do this trip. I'm always up for an adventure. And I took off. I planned the trip out here, but I didn't plan the return trip. I thought it'd be no problem and I could make it back. There aren't a whole lot of fast charging stations or really charging stations in this area. And I have to watch out because obviously I have the trailer, so I have to make sure I have room for the trailer wherever I go. So I ended up going over to Cisco Brewery, which is right near the event, and I tried sleeping in the camper. I got there probably around 11:30, and it was just so hot out. I couldn't sleep. I went in and out for a couple hours, and I was charging on level 2, and it really wasn't even a very fast level 2, but it was something, and I just wanted to get to bed. And I kept panicking that the charger would stop, so I kept waking up to look at my phone and check that out. So that's where I left before I came here, and I did the math, and I really thought I had plenty to spare, because if this DC charger didn't work, then the next closest one was 10 miles away, and I thought I even left myself that, and I definitely didn't. But yeah, I'm here now. I thought I should throw this in here. This is my Chademo extension cable in action. I've got a CAN data logger right there. I know it's on a block of wood, but it's a fragile little board. I don't want to protect it with something. And I'm pulling some CAN data right there so I can read what's happening in between the charger and the car. But yeah, if you guys are interested, this thing has been invaluable already. I probably could have got by without it. I maybe could have like pulled that over and plugged it in, but yeah, either way, I had this, and this allows me to pull CAN data, which is pretty cool. So I'm definitely curious to see what's going on in there. All right, that's it for now. Well, I'm back in Albany. This should be my final charge. I only need, I think, like 4.5 kilowatt hours to get me home. So close. Hopefully you guys can hear me. It's pretty windy. I'm just beat. I got an hour of sleep last night. I don't remember if I said that in the last clip or not, but yeah, almost there. I've got about, I think, 3.5 hour drive home from here, assuming nothing bad happens. People are looking at me like, what the heck is that guy doing? This whole trip home, a little embarrassing to say, but the anxiety level's just been off the charts. Last night, something happened and my solar system at home, the off-grid solar system, didn't recharge my T-Rex version 1 at home, my battery that I'm using for the home energy storage. So my wife and son ran out of power late last night, so they haven't had electricity in, no, not quite 24 hours, but probably 18 hours. So I want to get home, get that fixed for them. So I'm definitely in a rush trying to get there. And then, but the other big thing is, I had so much trouble with all of the charging stations on the way out to New Hampshire that I was just dreading that every stop, this thing's not going to charge, the Jdemo's not going to work, or the charging station's not going to work. But thankfully they've all worked on the way home. That hasn't stopped the anxiety, because I at the next one I'm like, oh, the next one's not gonna freaking work. But they all have, thankfully. Looking forward to getting home and seeing my little dude and my wife and getting some electricity for him. And of course it just has to be one of the hottest days. I'm not sure what it is back home, but it's been like 95 all day for me. So they've been at home with no air conditioning. But I guess that's it for this little segment. I'm going to check my kilowatt hours that I've gained and see if I have enough to go home. And I'll probably just make one quick clip once I get home and go to sleep. Well, this is really embarrassing, but I did it again. ran out of juice. Well, this time I didn't quite run out, but I know I was going to run out. So I pulled into this house and knocked on the door, looked all over, can't find anybody. This is the second time, both times coming back from seeing Rich. Definitely not his fault. I'm a rookie move. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I had plenty of juice coming back. All I needed to do was stay at the fast charger another 15 minutes, maybe 20, just to be safe. But I've been going over the numbers. It looked like I was going to have plenty to spare. I was actually going a little faster, just a little. I was actually just going like 2 miles per hour. Well, that was a complete and utter failure. So much so that it took me a couple days to wrap this up and make a final clip. I was just exhausted by the end of that trip. Going that far and relying on charging for an overnight is definitely risky, and I don't really want to do that again. It took a lot of the fun out of it, which I'm all for adventure and just jumping in the car and going, but that was a chore. And then with the heat, oh man, that heat was just killer. One of the hottest streaks we've had in a long time. It's still pretty hot today, but it's cooling down. It was that was a hot one. So here's what happened. I was at a charging station in Albany. I could have stayed longer. I should have stayed longer, but I did some calculations and I thought I would get home with 24 miles to spare. I thought it'd all be good. What I forgot about and didn't take into account is all the hills that I hit after right about Whitney Point, New York to my house. And there's a lot of up and down hills, not huge hills, but pretty steep hills and a lot of them. And it just crushed my range. Going out to Albany, I didn't notice it as much. Must be because a majority of them are going downhill, but this time more of them are going uphill. So I was using a lot of energy, and I just start getting closer and closer, and I realize I'm watching the gauge, I'm watching the numbers. I am not going to make it all the way home. And then I changed the goal, and at that point, I just wanted to get to the next closest charging station. Unfortunately, New York is mostly desert when it comes to charging stations, and I was in one of the worst parts of it. There was nothing near me. It was very rural, and there was not any chance of charging. So even as I progress, with all the hills and going up and down, I'm looking at the numbers, I realize that I don't think I'm even going to make the closest charging station. So at that point, I had a couple blips left on my guessometer. I think I had 6 kilowatt hours remaining in the Rav4, which again, my theory always is that I double that number. Where it gets tricky is on the bottom end, because the voltage between the Tesla battery pack in the T-Rex version 2 and the Tesla battery pack in the Rav4 are a little different. So that plan doesn't quite work when it comes to the very bottom end. So anyway, I'm looking at the numbers and I don't think I'm going to make it. So I just whip into a house, and it's a big house. There was a farm. I immediately knock on the doors. I'm looking for somebody. I walk around the whole property. I go to the barns. Nobody's there. And there's an outlet right by their door. So I plug in and I start charging my car. I didn't like it. I mean, it's not ideal. Obviously, I'm not taking a lot of power, but I'm taking something that doesn't belong to me. So I felt horrible. Like it was just such a bad evening and bad event. But thankfully they did come home, and that's when I dropped the camera in that last clip. I just told them the whole story. I just talked to them, and they were totally cool. Like they had no problem with it at all. They ended up trying to help me, trying to find a faster way to charge, which I was thankful for. Unfortunately, the wall charger was only giving me a couple amps. It would have taken days to get where I needed to be. So I was looking at all my options, maybe towing the car somewhere and the trailer, maybe leaving it there for the night and get an Uber from home. But I was still like 29 miles from home. So none of the options were cheap, unfortunately. So I'm talking with this guy, and then he brings out a generator, which, yeah, I know, charging an EV on a generator, but that's what we did for a little while, just because it was like 6 amps instead of 2 amps. It was just slightly faster. And then he tells me they have a welding plug inside one of the barns. So that was awesome. Luckily, every time I travel, I take a backpack full of all different types of adapters. I could pretty much plug in anywhere. And I had an adapter from my 1450 plug to this style plug. I'm not even sure what it's called. It's just a 2-prong with a ground. So I got that out and connected, and thank God that worked. It sped things up nice, but I was still there from, man, I lost track of time. It was just so nutty. But I think it was probably about 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and I was just dying to get home. And it was just brutal. So after a few hours of charging, I did get enough to get all the way home. I didn't have to stop at the next charging station. And then I got the power turned back on for my family in the house. So it was just crazy stressful. I don't want to do that again. And next time I travel, it's definitely going to be for more than an overnight, especially when I'm going that far. So a couple days later, I am just thankful that I'm home. The next day, I don't think I even left the house, but it was just a really bad ending to kind of a bad trip. It was just too hot, too long, and just too many problems with the Chademo charging stations and with Jdemo. It's hard trying to push it that far when there's still so many variables that happen. And I'm a big EV advocate. I'm always pushing my friends to buy EV. And after this trip, I'm going to shut up for just a little bit, because that was challenging and I was wiped by the end. I guess that's it. Thanks for watching all of this, and have a great night, guys.